Archaeology News, the news you can trust.
All right, in this edition of Archaeology News, we are going to be looking at stories involving archaeology of the human body. It's really bizarre stuff, but after watching, if you've seen any similar stories that you think fit the bill, let me know. For the first one, we're looking at something so unbelievable that I thought that I was misreading the headlines at first. Now, we've all heard the expression, "my brain is fried."
This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
But have you ever heard of a brain being vitrified? Vitrification is the process of turning something into glass or a glass-like substance. Now, thanks to a study last year, we do know that brains are often oddly preserved at archaeological sites when you wouldn't think that would be possible. If you want to know more, check out that episode. And for this one, we are going to Herculaneum, the town right below the slopes of Mount Vesuvius, which was totally engulfed in volcanic ash in 79 AD in that famous eruption that also destroyed Pompeii. We already visited there briefly once when we were discussing the decoding using AI of a particular scroll that was found in the House of Papyri. Truly an amazing feat of technology in solving an archaeological problem. Anyway, 1960s era excavations in a building called the College of Augustale, a hotspot for worshiping Emperor Augustus, came upon the carbonized remains of a young man, probably just 20 years old. Judging by his position, he was likely just the college custodian caught in bed when the eruption hit. Talk about hitting the snooze button on the worst possible day. But here's the kicker. Fast forward to 2020 when a team of researchers, mostly from Italy, is studying the body and they notice something weird inside the man's skull. Some fragments, shiny like volcanic glass, are in there.
Weird.
And they have no idea what else this could be other than his brain. Totally mystified, they design an experiment using advanced imaging to test whether or not these shiny fragments really are in fact his brain. That's right, the going hypothesis is that his brain had been vitrified. Okay, quick science lesson. To vitrify something, you need two things. Really high temperatures, we're talking 950 Fahrenheit or 510 Celsius, followed by super fast cooling. If something doesn't cool fast enough, crystals form instead, and you don't have glass. This is what left everyone scratching their heads. How could these conditions have existed for his brain at Herculaneum? However, the pyroclastic flows, those terrifying clouds of hot gas and debris that engulfed Herculaneum, which were originally thought to have caused the vitrification, are toasty, but they don't quite get hot enough to cause that vitrification. They max out at 869 Fahrenheit or 465 Celsius. Enter the ash cloud. What's the ash cloud? Think of it as a lighter weight, higher flying cousin of our pyroclastic flow. The team of researchers now believe that an early super hot ash cloud that did hit the required temperature crashed into Herculaneum before the pyroclastic flows hit. It blitzed the young man's remains with intense heat, causing his brain to liquefy. But during this fiery apocalypse, his skull could have possibly acted as a protective heat shield. Then, as the ash cloud passed nearly instantly, the temperature plummeted, flash freezing the liquefied brain into glass. You're probably thinking right now, this seems very unlikely. Just how specific do these conditions need to be? The answer is crazily specific, like 1 in a billion specific. Goldilocks perfection. Not too hot to vaporize the brain, but hot enough to liquefy it, and then again followed by a super fast drop in temperature. And to test these hypotheses, the team simulated various temperature conditions on some of that glass-like substance found inside the man's head, and they found similar enough processes to take that as confirmation. And previous research in 2020 also found structures that resembled neurons, basically cells in your brain, in the glassy substance. Anyway, if all of this is true, it would be literally the only example of vitrified soft tissue ever found in nature.
Like, oh my God!
However, other academics doubt the findings. Alexandra Morton Hayward, forensic anthropologist at Oxford, asserts that biological soft tissues cannot form stable glass at ambient temperatures. Meanwhile, material scientist John Morrow at Penn State University claims that the soft tissues would have been irreversibly damaged by temperatures as high as those produced by that ash cloud.
Oh, no, he didn't.
As for me, I am not a scientist, but my big doubt is this. Why didn't they just go to a med school, get some tissue from a cadaver, and simulate these temperature conditions on that tissue? Wouldn't that have resolved the issue? Maybe there's something I'm missing, but that's what came to mind for me. Okay, moving on to another odd human body part story, and this one is a little delicate, so bear with me. We're going to go to Noisy-sur-École, just south of Paris. Now, this is just west of Fontainebleau, known for its chateau and otherworldly sandstone formations. You see, this area is particularly rich in a certain type of sandstone with a very, very high concentration of quartz, leading to odd weathering that causes these funky shapes. Hence, people often see things in the rocks, like these here are known as the elephant and mushroom rocks, though I guess the resemblance is in the eye of the beholder. And you can also see these around the world in museums, like this painting by Cézanne at the Met, or you can even see pieces of the real thing in places like the Natural History Museum in London. Well, not surprisingly, this sort of malleable strata is prime real estate for overhangs and cliffs, and it is in one of these that archaeologists Medard Theory and Anthony Milnes have made some startling claims. The cave is Seguignol 3, which to me sounds like some kind of a pet robot. And the scientists claim to have found a large representation of the female anatomy in there.
A lot of vagina.
I'm sorry, I'm just not getting it. It sounded like you said your name was a lot of, Never mind.
Yes, so there is apparently some giant hoo-ha in that cave, the work of natural contours in the rock, as well as anthropogenic efforts. That means made by people. And right away, I find that a bit sus because though I'm admittedly not the world's #1 expert, that does not look like a lot of vagina to me. It looks more like a plucked broiler chicken or something, but maybe that's just me. Let me know what you think in the comments. Maybe don't let me know what you think in the comments. However, there apparently are other representations of the female anatomy in caves in Europe from this time, so let's just go with it. Oh, and what time would that be, by the way? That would be the Upper Paleolithic, anywhere from 40 to 12,000 years ago. And the case for this was bolstered by some newly found murals that the researchers noticed on the walls of horses, and that fit with other cave art from that time. And what makes this whole thing really stand out was that it was supposedly designed with the natural seepage of water into the cave that created flows which could be manipulated to empty and fill the lady parts, replicating certain natural processes of the body. There's a limited number of those, so I'll let you use your imagination. Now, anyway, these caves are well studied, so the team went back continuously over the course of 5 years and observed the natural flows and seepage of the water. And they took photogrammetry images, that's advanced photography images, to create a sort of 3D map of the cave. And getting a sense of how the water moved and how the erosion would have worked, they identified the features that were likely man-made. They couldn't have gone off of looking for tool marks because, after all, the stone is so soft and the carvings would have been so old that those marks would have been no longer visible. And this seems totally plausible given that there are definitely Paleolithic and Mesolithic carvings in the area, confirmed. All right, everyone with me so far? Because here's where it gets a little weird, if it isn't weird already. So they go through the cave, mapping the features and seeing the flows of the water, and they identify once again a mixture of anthropogenic and natural features which recreate a map of the local area, complete with rivers that fill up with the water. Now, of course, flood control and other agricultural projects would have altered the water flow in the region. However, we can kind of get a sense of what that would look like. The researchers see a striking resemblance between the features in the cave and the area around the cave, like the valley and the surrounding topography. But I gotta be honest, maybe if I tilt my head the right way and squint, I sort of see it, but I don't really find this super convincing. However, in the author's defense, they do cite other papers written by other researchers that seem even more far-fetched. And they do point out that these maps are not meant to be accurate representations of the distances between things, but more of their relationship with one another, the geographical features. Plus, the authors fill the paper with visuals, and quite frankly, it's kind of hard to follow. I read it so you don't have to. I would imagine being there in the cave and seeing it would be a lot more convincing, and the researchers have done that, so I trust their judgment. Anyway, why would these ancient people, hunter-gatherers, as this is before the Neolithic period, have made such a map? Well, there are two likely explanations. First, it could have been practical. This valley leads right into the fords across the Seine, where animals like oryx would have been headed. So in this scenario, the map would have served as a planning tool to arrange a hunt among the various members of the hunter-gatherer community. Also, it could have served a ritual purpose. And you can take a drink. You see, the lady part certainly could represent fertility and the giving of life. Rivers are necessary for life, and it doesn't take too much imagination to see how that could be related. Well, regardless of the interpretation, if this is true, that would make this the oldest known 3D map in the world. If you remember way back when, we did feature the Saint-Belec slab from Brittany, another part of France, on this very channel. Well, that one was pretty amazing, and between you and me, I think somewhat more convincing. But it was between 3,600 and 4,200 years old, the Bronze Age. Well, placing this particular art installation in the Upper Paleolithic would make it at least 12,000 years old, much older than the Saint-Belec slab. So, kind of a big deal. So are you convinced? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching. Hey, if you like what you heard, give me that thumbs up below, hit that bell to subscribe, or if you want to support more independent archaeology content, consider contributing to my Patreon, where you can enjoy some exclusive members-only benefits and other goodies. Until the next dig.